Hi everybody! Welcome to tonight's virtual book launch of Year of Tranquility. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. My name is Kimberly Wilson, which many of you probably know. And tonight what we're going to do is dive into some pieces of the book. I'll share a little bit of inspiration kind of around what brought it to life, how to utilize it. And then also I'm going to do a giveaway, and I'll mention that in a second, and go over a few savvy sources, do a little bit of reading, a little bit of writing and reflection, and of course celebrate International Women's Day. So whenever I came up with this idea, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do it on International Women's Day, March 8th. So thank you guys so much for being here on a Friday night. I'm so grateful. Now before I dive in, if you would head on over into the chat box, I'm just looking here because that's where the chat box is, and say hello, your name and where you're calling. I always say calling, where you are tuning in from. I always like to know, like, what coast are you on, and who's here. So thank you guys again so much for being here. And if you have to miss any of tonight, no worries. Of course, we are recording this, and I'll have a replay for you within about 24 hours over on the bonuses page. And just a reminder about that bonuses page. So it's gone out, a direct link to it in the past maybe 3 or 4 emails that I've sent to everyone who has signed up for, you know, the various bonuses. And so if for any reason you're having trouble finding it, just let us know. But I do want to encourage you to bookmark that page and or download what's there. And then you don't have to go through filling out that form every time, right? So we try to make it as easy as possible. And also for tonight, you can find everything for tonight, including this guidebook. Fortunately, I don't have a color printer, so mine is black and white. But this is all at kimberlywilson.com/YOT launch. All right, so you can find everything there. And hello, Jackson. Here's our kitty. We were like, should we put him away? We're like, no, he'll be fine. Bye, Jackson. Now he is going to the bathroom. So just a reminder that you can find that there, and it will be helpful for you to have the guidebook. I'm just going to pull a few things from it. If you don't have it handy, no worries. It's so not the end of the world. If you're driving and tuning in and listening, it's absolutely fine. And just a reminder, you can get all this later by going to the webpage whenever you're in front of a computer. Also, I wanted to mention a few things that might be fun to have also for tonight. Some washi tape. And if people are like, what is washi tape? I had a few ladies come on the Costa Rica retreat and they're like, what is this washi tape stuff? By the end, they were washi tape queens. So washi tape, as you can see, it's simply tape, but it's not just simply tape. It's decorative tape. And you can do so much with it. And I will show you a few things, of course. And if you've had a chance to watch the bonus video that came with the book, you probably have already been exposed to washi tape. But I just like to give a little shout out and show it in case you don't know it. And then also, of course, some tea, a candle if you have flowers, markers, scissors if you want to have any ephemera to work with. It's not required by any means. I'm just going to show you a couple things. So in case you wanted to dabble and do it along with me or kind of just create while I'm talking, please feel free. And then also, I pulled out, I'm not even sure where I got this. I think someone gave it to me for the holidays. Sparkling rosé with a paper gold straw. And I was like, this is a celebratory moment. I need something sparkling. So sparkling rosé. And I wanted to mention one thing too. One of the new t-shirts that I did. One is Feminists, right? And then the other one is Where Noir Live Rosé. And someone was like so sweet to me, and they sent me this little message on Facebook, like privately. I think you mean rose, not rosé, right? Because pink in French is actually rose, not rosé. And I was like, no, it really was intentional, even though I do know pink is rose in French. But the idea is like, how do you live rosé, right? This sort of like, I don't know, I just thought it added a little bit more mystery to it and a little more flair. So just know it is intentional. And that's a t-shirt that we have over at tranquility.com. All right, so I'm going to head right on over here and then just see who is tuning in. All right, so we have Cindy from San Antonio, Nydia from San Francisco, Catherine from Toronto, hello Alona from Arlington, New Jersey. Christine from, it just is also beautiful. Love the pink tulips. Woodland Hills, Julie. And Julie, I'm curious, is Stella joining us? And yes, Robin, living with effervescence is definitely one way to think about the rosé lifestyle. Yeah, and we've got Shizuka from Japan. Wonderful. Hello from Portland. So thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I really, really appreciate it. Yes, Alona, you were the person I was talking about with washi tape, right? We were like, what is this stuff? And then I'm like, you're a fan. You like it. You are a fan, and you do good work with it. All right, so thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I realize Stella's busy terrorizing the cat. Yes, Stella is Julie's dog. She's a boxer, and she is super duper ornery and so fun to see, like the latest antics she's been up to, like destroying couches and stuffed animals and whatnot. So anyway, and I'm sorry, my little gizmo, he sounds like a deflating balloon. He has been ornery for the past hour and a half. We can't figure out what he wants, but he's just a little whiny. So hopefully you cannot hear him being his lovely, whiny, beautiful, phenomenal self. So my apologies if it does come through at all. He is kind of adorable though. All right, so let's see. What I want to do is dive right on in and grab the guidebook. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, technology. If for any reason the screen, it's okay, sweetie. If for any reason the screen starts spinning, which sometimes it will, internet connections get wonky, just hit refresh. It's amazing what refresh does. So please just feel free to do that, or log out and come right back in, because you never know those internet connections, what's going on. So I just don't want you to miss it. But also just know, if you do miss anything, replay is going to be available, hopefully, I mean really within 24 hours, no problem. Again, over on your bonuses page. All right, and we'll also put the replay on YOT launch, just to make it super duper easy. You'll have it in 2 spots. All right, so I'm going to look down at my notes, and what we're going to do now, I wanted to mention the giveaway. So I have 2 books that I'm going to be giving away tonight. Voila. And they're 2 savvy sources from Year of Tranquility. So one is Hip Tranquil Chick, my very first book, 2006, A Guide to Life on and Off the Yoga Mat. So this clearly goes with the yoga chapter, which that's coming up in July. Now this one is The Crossroads of Should and Must, Find and Follow Your Passion, Ella Luna. I came across this, gosh, as soon as it came out, so it must have been, I think it was 16, and I just thought it was phenomenal. It's a really, really good book. Anyway, I have a copy of each, so I'm going to be doing is sending snail mail to you next week. And how I'm going to do that is anyone who shares a photo from tonight, whether or not it's like you watching the video or you working in your book, anyone who posts by midnight Eastern time tonight, I will choose a couple, and what I'll do is I'll DM you and be like, hey, I need your snail mail, and you can let me know which book that you would like. All right, so some of you may have Hip Tranquil Chick, so you may want Crossroads of Should and Must, or vice versa. One thing too I wanted to mention about this book that I thought was really special and important as we think about the pieces from Year of Tranquility, making meaning, you know, kind of like living a life that feels authentic and special to us. As she talks about, just as snakes shed their skin, we in turn have to do so also, right? So it's not like, how do I add all these things to my life, do more, more, more? It's like, no, what actually needs to be shed? And what needs to be shed could possibly be an old identity or an old belief. Anyway, I just remember that really sticking out to me with this book. Oh, and it's like, so cute inside, right? So there's art, and anyway, really, really sweet. So 2 giveaways, and again, all you have to do is head on over, if you're on Instagram, Facebook, I'll definitely check also, or Twitter, and use hashtag Year of Tranquility, share a photo, and I'll pick 2 randomly and be in touch with you. So thank you guys again so much for being here. All right, so what I wanted to also mention is the poem on page 3. So if we can all turn to that again in your guidebook, and if you don't have it, no worries. It is a poem by Marianne Williamson that many of you probably know and are aware of. All right, so, and this felt so appropriate also for International Women's Day. So our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. And there's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Isn't that profound, right? As we think about International Women's Day and how we can best support, uplift, nurture one another. And I just think this poem is so special as we consider, by us shining, by us putting our best self out there, it in turn can help and have a ripple effect that inspires others. You know, there's this beautiful Martha Graham quote that I'm so paraphrasing and going to not do a great job with her beautiful words. But basically the premise is, if you do not share your art with the world, whatever your art might be, they will never have it. And it's really like a travesty, right? So the importance of it is your responsibility to share your art. So it is your responsibility to show up in this world in a way that feels authentic to you, because then the world gets to experience it. And then in turn, other people are inspired by it. So I hope this is an inspiring poem for you too. I'm sure many of you have heard this 100 times, and I just am always like, oh, it like gives me chills. I think it's so powerful, and especially as we think about International Women's Day. Now, before we dive in, I just have to honor International Women's Day, and I wanted to mention a few ways on how to do that. Oh, here's my little chalkboard show and tell. Year of Tranquility, hashtag Year of Tranquility. All right, so I've got some books over here that I wanted to just kind of show and mention as like some great texts. All right, so first of all though, how can we honor and celebrate International Women's Day? So I put some ideas over on the blog today, KimberlyWilson.com/blog. So have a peek at that. There's even this amazing Spotify playlist. I think it has 100 songs of all these women artists that are like really amazing. All right, so also another thing is send a love note or a text or reach out to a colleague and let them know that you appreciate them. I got a note actually from one of my clients this week, and she was just responding to something I had sent her that was a resource. And she said at the end of it, "I appreciate you." And I was like, wow, you know, it's 3 simple words and yet so profound. And so this morning I sent a bunch of text messages to random women in my lives who I happen to have their phone numbers and you know, text with regularly, just letting them know that I thought they were amazing. And you know, it's like, why don't we do that more often? We can do that all, you know, every day. It does not have to just be March 8th of the year. The other thing is reading text. So I wanted to mention a few of kind of what I feel I've got a master's in women's studies, and I feel like, you know, I was exposed to so much of this, and you know, it's like things that I need to pick up from time to time because I forget about how powerful these texts are. So I just wanted to mention a few as we think about really exploring and considering feminism and what that means. And I wanted to give you a definition, right? So I've got this t-shirt, Feminists, because I think I'm French, and I'm not, I'm from Oklahoma, but Feminist, it just sounded more fun than feminist, right? So basically from this book, Manifesto, those of you who have been podcast listeners, you may know I interviewed them on the podcast back in, sorry, I think Mookie, he's sawing a log, you don't hear it, okay, because I'm like, he's quite loud. But I interviewed them on the podcast maybe like 2007 or something, the authors of this great book. So it says, by feminists, we mean each and every politically and socially conscious woman or man, and now it would be or binary, right? However you identify, who works for equality within or outside the movement, writes about feminism, or calls her or himself a feminist in the name of furthering equality. In reality, there is no formal alliance of women we can call the feminists. I love that. So this is a really great book, Young Women, Feminism, and the Future. Now, okay, whenever we're talking texts that are kind of critical and essential to reading, Betty Friedan, Feminine Mystique, The Second Sex, Simone de Beauvoir. Am I saying it right, my lovely Frenchies out there? Yeah, and what I find so amazing about her is her relationship with Jean-Paul Sartre. Really, really interesting. Okay, this one, Backlash, the Undeclared War Against American Women. So good. And then I've got two from this amazing woman who I saw in person in January, and I'm still starstruck, Gloria Steinem, Outrageous Acts and Everyday Rebellions, and A Book of Self-Esteem, Revolution from Within. So she talked about this book at her play that she's doing in New York. And anyone who is near New York or willing to travel across the country to go to New York and see it, it's a great play, and it's just simply called Gloria the Play. But anyway, she talks about this book and how powerful it was because she had recently met a Native American elder and spent a lot of time with her and really tapped into her spiritual side. So that's what this book is about. So anyway, I just wanted to share these with you as we think about honoring and celebrating International Women's Day and what are some great texts to get started with. So two others I'll just mention and then we'll move on is Grassroots, a Field Guide for Feminist Activism, and that's by the same woman who wrote Manifesto. And these are all older books, so you can find these on, online, used books. Feminism in Our Time, The Essential Writings, World War II to Present. Now, this was actually a textbook of mine in women's studies. And what's great is there's pieces from all of these books, The Second Sex, Feminine Mystique, Sexual Politics, so all sorts of ones that are in here. So if you just want snippets of it and not the full book. And then the last thing I want to mention as we think about celebrating and honoring International Women's Day is supporting female artists. So there's a museum here in Washington, D.C., and it's called the National Museum of Women in the Arts, and I recently joined as a member. It's a nominal fee, and I thought I want to support. And what was so cool is the exhibit that I just saw, and unfortunately it's ended, is Rodarte. And Rodarte are two sisters who do this amazing fashion. And they actually did Natalie Portman's tutus for Black Swan. And both of those, the White Swan and the Black Swan, were on display. And actually it was their first fashion exhibit at the National Museum of Women in the Arts. But what I wanted to say about that is, supporting female artists in whatever way possible. We as the foundation, before we turned into Pigs and Pugs Project, we used to focus on women and girls. And LunaFest was a film festival that was put on by, for, and about women. And I Googled before our gathering tonight, and it's still going on. So LunaFest, if you're interested, check it out. They're great. They're short films, and again, all by, for, and about women. So just getting out there and supporting female anything. And so those were just some of my ideas and things that I'd come across on supporting International Women's Day. And of course, feel free to share any ideas that you might have over in the chat box. And could you list the books? Absolutely, Karen. I will put them over in your YOT launch page. And I'll just put like one that says resources, because I know I just showed a lot. I kind of have a thing with books. All right, so next, let's move in. Let's get centered, right? Let's just take a moment to kind of get grounded. And with regard to International Women's Day, if there's anything else that you want to share on how best to honor women today and every day and honor one another, please feel free to note over there on the chat box. All right, so let's get grounded. Let's come into a comfortable seat, whatever that might be for you, and sitting upright, nice and tall, shoulders over the hips. Allow the eyes to close if that's comfortable for you. If not, you can keep the gaze down and soft. And just take a few deep breaths in and out of your nose. And take a moment to notice what's going on physically for you. Do you feel heat, coolness, tightness, openness? Do you feel tingling, numbness, tightness? And also noticing if the mind is wandering, if you have a lot of tabs open on your computer, or you've got a crying baby across the room, or whatever it is that might be distracting, and see if you can come into this moment and be fully present for our time together tonight. And really letting this be a chance for you to hit the pause button, slow down, tune in, and just notice what you notice tonight, right now, going on in your body. And if you need a little dose of calming, grounding, or even a bit of self-compassion, bring your hand to your heart center. You can leave your hand here as long as you would like. This helps to calm the autonomic nervous system. And noticing any emotions that may be bubbling up for you. And see if you can name them, or name it if there's just one. And then create an intention for our time together. This hour that you've set aside on a Friday night, tuning in as far from Japan, LA, New Jersey, Virginia, all around. And just honoring yourself for taking this time out of your busy life to slow down, tune in, celebrate women, celebrate this book, celebrate our community, celebrate you. And take a big inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. And let your eyes flutter open. Great, so welcome back. Let's do just a little bit of stretching. All right, so reach those arms out to the sides, all the way up. Interlace your hands, turn palms to face up, and then take a side bend over to your left. Extend, extend, extend. And then back up. And then over to your right. And back up. And over to your left. And now take your hand and pull that wrist as you extend a little bit further. Back to the center. And then other side. And then back to the center. Bring hands onto your knees. Exhale, curve the spine, drop your chin to your chest. And inhale, heart center forward, shoulder blades down the back, forehead up. Exhale, curve the spine. Inhale, up. Exhale, curve. Inhale, up. And back to the center, and lower your left ear to your left shoulder. If you'd like, you can bring the arm up and over and reach for that ear and just give a slight little tug. And then back up, and we'll do the other side. So dropping your ear to your shoulder, bringing the arm up and around. Nice, and then back up. Great, and just release, kind of working out any kinks that you may be holding on to from the day. We hold so much in our body. You know, another Martha Graham quote that I do know verbatim is, the body says what words cannot. So it's so important really to tune into and pay attention to our body. So just kind of working out whatever you may be holding on to and see if you can kind of drop in. Another thing I wanted to mention, feel free to any questions that you might have, or like Karen's suggestion to list the books, please feel free to put those over in the chat box, because Tim's monitoring them and he's like waving, and he can answer any questions as I'm kind of going through things that I may miss, since I'm not kind of in the chat box constantly. Okay, so please feel free, and we will definitely, I'll do a read through afterwards and see, just make sure I haven't missed anything that you guys want or need. So can I just start by saying a big thank you for supporting Year of Tranquility. So those of you who have listened to the podcast where I talked about this, and it's on your bonuses page, you know, I talk about all the craziness that went into actually bringing this to life, from, you know, my designer, who's amazing, you know, doing the upload. It's late at night. We're like all excited. We're like, yay, it's done. And she's like, oh, there's an issue. It's, for some reason it's not accepting it. It says it needs to be 8 by 10. I was like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be 8 by 10. So we had to do a whole new redesign. She was amazing, did it like that. You know, so there were just so many random things. There was also like, a photo that didn't go to the full edge of the page, even though it did. There was like 1/16 of an inch, something that was like ridiculous that, you know, we had to fix. So just like all sorts of random things. And what's crazy is sweet Christy and I spent our entire holidays like working at it. I'm like, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. And so we're so happy though with the way it came to be. And so I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for supporting it. So we've got, of course, the physical copy. I worked with somebody to get the Kindle pulled together, and that went up maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. Then of course we have the PDF version, and that one you actually buy through my website, because some people like to have just the PDF, right? So not necessarily a print and not necessarily a Kindle. So, you know, so we have all 3 formats available. And so thank you all for supporting it. I really, really appreciate it. And what I want to do is turn to, if you will turn in your guidebook to page 4. Because this is our reflection piece, right? And this was something I encourage you, if you had time, to do just a little bit of reflection on before tonight. And so the questions range from like, what would living a year of tranquility look and feel like for me? And I think this is something that is really important to sit down with and ask yourself, right? So it's going to be different for me than it is for you. There's no one way to think about living a year of tranquility. And let me just tell you, it does not mean that everything's easy and everything's super smooth and you never have an issue. However, what it does mean is that you work to be as present as possible. You start over and over again. There's this great mantra, begin again, right? When you eat an entire box of Thin Mints in 12 hours and you slept for 8 of them, you know, it's like, okay, I'm going to begin again. I'm going to start again with a green smoothie to wash it all down. You know, so it's like not about, let me just say, it's not about perfection, right? It's progress over perfection. It's progress, not perfection. And if you wonder, like, what are all these dots? So the idea came from this book, Dot Journaling, and some of you may be into dot journaling or bullet journaling. I think it's so beautiful. But anyway, that's where the dots came from. And what's kind of fun about the dots too is they just give you a sort of grid. You know, some of you may have been buying Moleskines or notebooks for years that have the dots before dot journaling and bullet journaling was a thing. But that's kind of why we have the dots versus lines. And it just gives a little more freedom, but yet there's a little bit of framework and guiding. Biggest dreams, goals, and wishes for the years. And as I go through these just briefly, if there's any question that kind of spoke to you that you did some writing about, anything that you would like to share about it, put it over in the chat box. If not, no worries. But if there is, I would love to hear it. Particularly your biggest dreams, goals, and wishes. And you may know why I ask you to do that, because of the importance of accountability, which you read probably in January, if you got the book in January, in the Dreams chapter, which is the very first chapter. And I talk about how having an accountability person, or the fact that you have to tell somebody what you've done, studies show you're more likely to do it, rather than like writing in my journal, okay, I'm going to go to yoga 3 times a week, right? No one knows that. But if you put it out there, there's more of a sense of intending to show up for it. And so That's why I ask if there is anything that you'd like to share. Put it over there because you may just think of us as accountability buddies with it. All right, so page 5, what was surprising about my seasonal life review? So that's one of the things I asked you to do before we gathered, and that was seasonal life review. So that is on page 21 of your book. And so, the idea here is to really look at these various aspects of your life and ask yourself, how satisfied am I today, right now, knowing that it changes? It can change constantly. And, just kind of doing a little check-in with yourself to see how are things feeling? What's surprising? And sometimes it might be surprising that health is actually really great. I hadn't been paying attention to it. Or, finances I hadn't thought about and they're actually lower than I want them to be. So number 4, which of the 32 tranquility tools do I find most helpful? So I'm always kind of curious about that. And again, you could share over on the chat box which one you find most helpful. I mean, the one that I am like obsessed with is soaking in the tub. Of course, the green smoothies, the writing. There's so many that are really ingrained in my daily life. So of course, we've got the daily, weekly, monthly, and seasonal tranquility tools. And just a reminder, they are all suggestions. The next page, we've got number 5, where do I need more support? So I think this is always helpful to keep in mind, similar to the dreams chapter, right? Where I talk about if X, then Y, right? So that's something I got from my positive psychology studies last year. And the idea is if I get hungry mid-afternoon, instead of going to the vending machine, I'm going to grab a cup of tea, right? Speaking of which, so, the idea here is thinking of okay, where do I need support? Okay, I need support meeting my goals of eating less sugar by knowing that mid-afternoon, I need to have almonds in my bag, I need to have tea nearby, I need to have grapes, something sweet, whatever it might be. So thinking for yourself, where do you need more support in your life? And number 6, what does International Women's Day mean to me? And did you even know there was an International Women's Day? I think a lot of people don't. And so what does it mean to you? And how would you like to best, honor others through it? Today, again, and every day. We do not have to just wait for March 8th of every year to come around. All right, so I'm going to head on over into the chat box, see if anyone had anything to say. So we've got Nicole, big dream, take my parents on their bucket list road trip. I love that. And Deborah, for my year of tranquility, I would love for every day to be like a page out of Victoria magazine. Oh my gosh, if you guys don't know Victoria magazine, it was an amazing magazine. And you know what, Deborah? I used to have a little planner. It was about this size, but it was square, and it was Victoria magazine. And so it's like, for those of you who don't know, it's like Victorian decor, beautiful roses and teacups and lace and Battenberg lace, things along those lines. It was stunning. But I remember showing up with my little day book, my little planner, with one of my advisors in college. And I remember he took it. He was like, can I go show this to my colleague? And I think he was so he was totally making fun of me, but I think in a kind of sweet way, but I don't think he'd ever seen a planner like that. So believe me, Deborah, I know Victoria magazine. It's amazing, or it was. Yeah, I don't think they do it anymore. All right, so the next thing I just want to mention, page 7, this is your playlist. And just, it is clickable. And so this will take you directly to the playlist. It's also on your bonuses page. But don't forget that Spotify playlist that I put on the blog today, because that is freaking amazing. All right, so Tranquil Treats. These are just a couple of my favorite recipes that I pulled actually from Year of Tranquility, plus Tranquiltini. And Tranquiltini, during the 2006 book launch of Hip Tranquil Chick, we had Tranquiltinis there. And I've done it for a few other events, and what they are is just lavender-infused drinks. And of course, you can do mocktinis. And so there's an idea for both of those. All right, so Year of Tranquility highlights. What I wanted to do is show you and mention a few things from the book that, aren't like you wouldn't know it unless you went through the book. So I have some notes that I want to share with you guys, and so that's why there's a little note section down at the bottom on page 9. But I also had my designer pull together these little tick boxes here for you. And so what I thought was kind of fun about this is this would allow you, again, if you like tick boxes as much as I do, I tell you, I cannot get enough of checking things off. The amount of joy it brings me, it's like Pavlov's dog. It makes me so happy. But in case you're like that too, I wanted to have a sheet for you that was like that. So thinking about all the different pieces that you've done, because a reminder, Year of Tranquility, it's laid out. Part 1 is planning. Right, it's kind of your bigger picture. Part 2 is your practice, and this is all of the 12 different topics plus the 4 practices that go along with each of them. And so you can check them off as you've done them. Now let's turn into the practice piece, okay? So what I want to do is just mention a few different things from this that I thought might be interesting for you guys to know and have handy. Okay, so the first thing, and I'll throw out 1 or 2 from each of the topics. All right, so the first one I wanted to mention is a reminder about SMART goals. That's on page 52. And also the letter to yourself on page 57. So a reminder with SMART goals, how to set up goals so that they are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Right, so I talk about that here, and then of course I listed some of mine there. And then if you go to page 57, this idea is pulling together your letter to your future self. And then there's a page at the back where page 220 where you would pull this out and then put it in an envelope there. And so that's one thing that I just wanted to mention, because some of you may have just picked up the book, so you haven't done that yet. But I wanted to encourage everybody to do that and stick it in the back. And I have done that with just another kind of envelope that I have set aside. But you can do it because we have a little envelope, kind of a little faux envelope for you to place it here in the book if you would like. All right, so then with February on page 67, another highlight here that I thought was really neat is we think about, and particularly with International Women's Day, is we think about nurturing relationships, right? So here are some ideas and suggestions on ways to nurture relationships. Adopt a rescue pet. Keep your phone tucked away when in conversation. Bake something for your team. Let someone into your lane. You know, we've got this intersection right by my house where it seems like it should be a 4-way stop. It's not. And so one lane is always supposed to it's through traffic and the other one stops. Well, I'll often be in the through traffic lane and somebody tries to go, not realizing it's not a 4-way stop. And sometimes I'll push on the horn. I'm like, it's my go. And I'm like, you know, really, in the grand scheme of things, does this matter, right? And so letting someone into your lane, sometimes even though you're right, it's just sometimes you're like, okay, just let go of the horn, let them go. You know, it's not going to really slow me down that much. I may be a minute later to ballet class, but you know what? It's going to be okay. So this idea of how do we nurture relationships, because honestly, in turn, we nurture ourselves when we nurture others. Because whenever we're pushing on the horn, getting upset because somebody's in our lane, you know, it's like, who suffers from that? Probably not them. All right, so let's page 80. Okay, so this one, closet cleaning. All right, so we are coming up into that time of the year. And I did this early February. I think it was like February 2nd or 3rd or something. And I did Facebook videos and I did Instagram videos. So some of you may have seen those, and before and after. And my thought was I was going to get the whole house done, right? I had the whole day set aside. Well, I got the closet done because I did the Marie Kondo style, and honestly, this is how I've always done it anyway, and this is how I encourage it here on page 80, is you pull everything out of the closet and put it on the bed. My dogs hated it. And then, you know, you slowly put things back based on what it is you're going to keep, and you know, putting them back in like a great little spot that makes sense and is organized, etc. So this is a wonderful thing to do, and to you know, as we think about spring approaching, doing some spring cleaning. So page 80 kind of walks you through the entire process. All right, so the next page I want to mention, so as we go into the next topic of creativity, one of my favorite things to talk about, page 95 is artist dates. All right, so artist dates are these amazing experiences that you do solo every week for 1 to 2 hours to nurture your creative spirit. I'll give some examples that I have here in the book. Collage, play on Pinterest, make a playlist, watch a foreign film, go for a bike ride, read poetry outside, pick up an adult coloring book and break out the colored pencils, play with paint, take a dance class, get a tarot card reading, fly a kite, visit an animal sanctuary. So these are just some ideas, right, on how to take an artist date, and I highly encourage it, particularly those of you who are a little lower on the seasonal life review in the creativity section than you'd like to be. The second piece, because of course I had to mention too in creativity, is art journaling, and that's on page 96. So this just gives you some ideas on ways to art journal. And, you know, I have done some art journaling here within, you know, my Year of Tranquility book. So you can do this, of course, in a sketchbook. I do it with my Months of Dreams even. So you can do it in a sketchbook, of course, but you can also do it in your Year of Tranquility book, or, you know, in any sort of notebook that you have. So art journaling is a really fun creative outlet. All right, so the next thing I wanted to mention, if you turn to page 112, 113. So again, these are just highlights that really, you know, things that have stuck out to me that I thought could be really helpful resources. Of course, I think everything in here is of value, but these were pieces that I was like, let me just highlight these for them in each chapter. Page 112 to 113. What is the thing that everybody says they don't have enough of? Time, energy, money. And so here I have 10 ideas on ways to look at our usage of it and manage it. Just suggestions, of course. So my hope is that these will help you feel a little bit more flush in all of these. Okay, so if we turn to page 125, all right, so this is wellness. And wellness, who knew, but there are like 12 different types of wellness. And I just wanted to mention and touch on the emotional piece. So, you know, as a psychotherapist, of course, I'm working with a lot of people with emotional challenges, which, you know, frankly, who doesn't? Who doesn't struggle emotionally from time to time? And so I have some suggestions here on ways to work with that. So polishing those coping skills, meditating, journal, reframing problems to find solutions, repeating cancel, cancel to those negative thoughts on replay. So how many of you notice things that go on loop, right? You get an email and you're just like, oh, right? It's loop, loop, loop. And so one way to work with that is to say to yourself, cancel, cancel. So it's thought stopping, and then you work to thought replace. So you replace by getting present with what's in front of you, or you come up with a thought that is just like a beautiful time in your life, and you let that be your thought that you replace it with. Now, it doesn't mean that we avoid things and we just push anything that's negative away, but what we're trying to do is not give those negative thoughts 24/7 play. Keeping the bigger picture in mind, paying attention to triggers, practicing stop. To stop, take a breath, observe what's happening, and proceed with awareness. So I wanted to mention these because I think these are so helpful really for all of us, everyday life. So page 137. Okay, 8 Yogic Principles. Now these, of course, I talk about in Hip Tranquil Check, and I've talked about probably in a few of my books and on the blog and podcasts over the years. But I just wanted to mention these because I think so often we think of yoga as simply asana, just exercise, which is fine. It can be whatever you want it to be. However, if you would like it to become a lifestyle, then here are some ideas on ways to do that. Okay, page 153. Let's talk self-talk. Okay, similar to what I just mentioned with the cancel. So I mentioned that here, and the importance of expressing positive affirmations to yourself, such as you got this, you're gonna do your best. You know, so for example, even when you wake up in the morning, if you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do, how am I ever going to get through this? I mean, that is not the kind of cheerleading sort of pep talk, like let's get up and do this sort of talk, right? And not that you have to like have pom-poms and really go at it, but the idea is, how can I support myself rather than berate myself, right? So it's like, I have a full plate today and I'm going to do the very best I can. Right? So, you know, do you see and feel the difference in the two? This is always really good too. Take your stories to court. So, for example, do you know beyond a reasonable doubt that your boss is upset with you or you're not getting better at a skill? No, you probably don't. So you're always like, okay, what evidence do I have to support this? What evidence do I have against it? Could this stand up in court? Do I know beyond a reasonable doubt that my boss is mad at me? Right? So this helps us get in touch with like those stories I'm telling myself, which we make up the most amazing stories. Okay, page 166. So we're almost through these highlights I wanted to share. And this is body scan. So again, here I have that quote that I mentioned by Martha Graham. The body says what words cannot. And so what I encourage you to do here is to do a body scan. And a body scan, you can do it for 5 minutes, you can do it for 45. So if you ever went through a mindfulness-based stress reduction class, you would be encouraged, you would actually, your homework could be 45-minute body scans daily. So a body scan, and you can get these online. I think I probably even have one in Tranquil Treasures, and you get access to that by signing up for the Love Notes. But, you know, you can also get them on YouTube. You can find them anywhere. There are lots of apps. But with a body scan, it walks you through the toes all the way up through the crown of the head, encouraging you to release all these different parts of the body. And what's great about it is it helps us move out of our head into our body and begin to pay more attention to the body. So I love that from a mindfulness angle. Okay, page 181 for writing. Lists. So those of you who love checking things off, you know, I think that lists can be really fun to do also. And I have a massive list of list options, right? A worry list. Even at the beginning of this week, I wrote a little list over on my planner that was right? And it was just a list of things that was like kind of on replay. They're to-dos or projects that are actually already slated and slotted into my planner. However, it was just, I just needed a little brain dump. So that was my on my mind list. You could call it a worry list. Excited about list, a gratitude list, a dreams list, a movies to watch list, a things to photograph list, items to buy. You know, like for me, I'm like, I need more protein powder. I need to get some black Sharpies, you know, just like random things. It's not so much like, oh, let me go get some new hot pink stilettos, unless that is your thing. But it's more of like, okay, what are the things that I'm needing right now? Favorite Instagram accounts, blogs to follow, essential oil recipes, right? So you get the idea. List, list, list. Again, that's for those of you who enjoy writing things like that. And what's great, it can be a very powerful tool. There's a wonderful book that I've mentioned before called Write It Down, Make It Happen. And I'm pretty sure it's a resource in this book. So good. And it really speaks to the power and the importance of writing things down. Okay, page 198. This fell into our entrepreneurship piece. And this is about our personal brand. And I always love to share this quote by Jeff Bezos, who is the founder of Amazon. He said, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So everybody has a personal brand, right? So that's kind of what that style piece means in the Seasonal Life Review. What is your personal brand? And what would you like it to be? How do you want to be thought of? How do you want to show up? How do you want to express yourself to the world? How do you live rosé or whatever it is for you? So personal brand. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, if you turn to page 211 in your book, and this is making meaning, right? So I think meaning is a bit of a buzzword these days in a good way, kind of like mindfulness. And so thinking about what are the ways that I can make meaning in my life. And these again are just some of my suggestions. Ponder the fleeting nature of life. Okay, with the loss of Luke Perry, those of you in my age demographic who knew and loved 90210, there was this great article on why losing Luke Perry at 51 or 52 was so crushing to those of us who, grew up on him. And so, kind of thinking about, these sorts of times and situations, I think really help us step back and do some bigger picture reflecting, expressing gratitude, getting into the flow, which is that optimum state of consciousness, creating community, paying close attention to your senses. Okay, so these are just some of my suggestions on ways to make meaning. All right, so these were some of the highlights that I wanted to share from Year of Tranquility that aren't, of course they're in the book, but they're not called out anywhere. And so I hope that was helpful to run through some of my favorite pieces that I thought might be helpful to you all. All right, so for reading, what I wanted to do is share just a couple of pieces. And let me just look over real quick and see if there's any questions. Oh, the Biltmore. Oh, the Biltmore. I love the Biltmore, Deborah. I've been there once and I thought it was amazing. A whole section of my planner to make lists. Yes, I love me some lists. The joy of checking things off, Kristen. Yes. One of my goals, honoring relationships, letting people know how much I appreciate them. And what's so interesting, Robin, is how long does it actually take to type out a text, I appreciate you, or at the end of an email, I appreciate you. It's like, oh, it means a lot to people. It meant a lot to me. Okay, so let's turn to page 12. So this, we're going to head into Year of Tranquility reading before we do savvy sources, takeaways, and next steps. So if you turn to page 12, this is my manifesto. And honestly, I think I have even edited it since then and turned that into a postcard. And I think I will continue to edit and alter it because I wanted that I believe in the equality for all beings to actually be moved up higher than it was. So in the new version, it is. But yeah, so with this manifesto, I want you all to think about your own manifesto. So I'll just read a few pieces from this. I believe in handwritten notes. I believe that compassion is the new black. I believe in living life full out. Now, those of you who are like, what does that mean? It's funny, my dance teacher, even today, she was like, go full out. And I was like, she gets it. I mean, it's totally kind of like a dance or performance sort of thing. You know how sometimes you'll just mark stuff, right, to conserve energy? No, with life, it's not a dress rehearsal. Live it full out. I believe glitter and washi tape spark joy. I believe in lighting candles every day. I believe in using paint, collage, and pens to awaken our inner artist. I believe we have a responsibility to make a difference. And I believe in happiness and freedom for all beings. So what is your manifesto? What would you write? The other piece I wanted to just read a tiny bit from, because I spent a lot of time pulling this together and I still feel like it could be tweaked, is the Tranquility du Jour tenets over on page 13. So I came up with 5. I tried to think about, okay, what are the things that I've been blogging about since 2004 or interviewing people about since 2005 or, studying myself or curious about or wanting to grow and develop in or incorporating into my life or sharing with others. And what came here is compassion, creativity, style and beauty, mindfulness, self-care. And I felt like everything kind of fell into that. However, I'm still not like 100% satisfied with it, but I feel like it's close. And so I'm just curious if you guys have any suggestions too, like what are your tenets or what do you even think Tranquility du Jour tenets are? I just think it's interesting to kind of think about like what are your guiding tenets? Okay, the next page I wanted to read from, 100. Everyday creativity, right? So often we feel like, oh, I don't have time to be creative. There's just not enough time and space. Well, here are some suggestions. Tuck a tea bag inside a note and seal your next thank you note with washi tape. Washi tape. Move your furniture around and add a brightly colored throw and toss your magazines into a wicker basket. Try a new perfume. Display postcards from art exhibits. Wear a new shade of lipstick. Add a scarf in a vibrant color. We're actually going to have these. I got this at a vintage store in Paris for like a few euros, and it was in the photo shoot, and a lot of people were like, what's that? I want that. We're actually going to be doing a scarf just like this for Tranquility this season, because this is our color, ballet. But I do think scarves are amazing. Tie them around your neck and your hair, around your wrist, around your handbag. And then the last thing I wanted to read from is Everyday Mindfulness. So take a bath and feel the water on your skin. Listen to music and let it wash over you. So trying maybe the Spotify playlist that was your bonus, or trying the Spotify playlist over on the blog today. And then I have here, try Bolero. If you guys don't know the music Bolero, it's amazing. Google it. You're going to love it. Dark chocolate, pay attention to sensations in your body, slip into your clothing and notice how it feels. That's why I only wear, there goes Gizzy knocking off all my feminist texts. He's like, patriarchy. So, it's like, I want something like really, cozy and comfortable. To me, that is, it allows me to really feel like I feel good in my body, and I feel good with the clothing because it feels comfortable on my skin. So just noticing, even for you right now, how do things feel? How do things feel on your skin? What do you notice? Do you feel air on your skin? Do you feel a sense of heat or coolness? And naming your feelings, noticing what emotions arise. So those are just some ideas that I had on everyday mindfulness that I thought might be helpful as we think about how do we incorporate this into everyday life without it being like, oh my gosh, I have to overhaul everything. Okay, so savvy sources. I just have a couple things I wanted to mention, and then we'll go into takeaways. So first off, okay, I have interviewed the lovely Gail McMeekin on the podcast a few times. She's just dreamy. And she wrote this great book that is in creativity, in the creativity section, 12 Secrets of Highly Creative Women. I just wanted to read a piece to you that I thought might resonate. Creative thoughts percolate in silence, in an atmosphere where we can escape the noise and the needs of others. We must dialogue with ourselves and then review the content. We must be still enough to listen and cultivate our creative impulses. Successful creative women value their time enough not to be seduced into doing things they don't really want to do unless they choose to. In order to succeed, you must create a space, commit the time, value it, and fight for it. Right? So if you think about the artist date, so you think about the time that you want to spend each week doing your year of tranquility practices, right? So fighting for and keeping that time sacred. Okay, the last thing from a savvy sources perspective that I wanted to mention, because I know I have so many savvy sources listed throughout the book. And this is from, of course, my favorite book on creativity. When I say favorite, I mean I have many favorites, but probably my most highly recommended, because this is what I credit to me starting the yoga studio, Tranquil Space, in 1999. So The Artist's Way, A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity. If you haven't done it, I highly encourage it. It's a 12-step program. And if you have done it, I encourage you to do it again. It's that good. Okay, so let me read this to you and let this sink in, because this is juicy. Remember that in order to recover as an artist, you must be willing to be a bad artist. Give yourself permission to be a beginner. By being willing to be a bad artist, you have a chance to be an artist, and perhaps over time a very good one. When I make this point in teaching, I am met by instant defensive hostility. But how do you know? How old will I be by the time I learn to really play the piano, act, paint, write, do ballet, right? So how old will I be by the time I can actually do that? And she says, yes, you'll be the same age you will be if you don't. So let's start. Right? So, I think of myself with ballet. So I've been doing it 15 months, right? So a year and a few months. And I was back in the class today, which was the first class I started with, and it is still as challenging as ever. And I'm like, I want to get on point. I want to have a recital. I want to wear a tutu, and I am still like struggling with the very basics. However, okay, well, when am I going to be how old am I going to be whenever I'm going to finally like get some of this stuff? Well, I'm going to be the same age, whether or not I'm practicing this or not, so I might as well be practicing it. And I think this is just such a good reminder about just starting. All right, the artist way, so good. And so the last thing I want to do is just takeaways and next steps. So with that, just a reminder that I'm doing a giveaway for these 2 books, Crossroads of Should and Must and Hip Trinkle Chick. I'll be sending these out via snail mail this week to 2 people that are chosen randomly who post any photos from your setup tonight or from your book or you and your book or your dog and your book over on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter using hashtag Year of Tranquility. And a reminder too, that if you have a moment to post a review on Instagram, would be super duper grateful. I so appreciate it when people do that, and thank you to those of you who have taken the time and had the chance to do that. I really, really appreciate it. Now what I would love to do, and I'm going to then show you, I'm just going to do a little tutorial on how I kind of set up a month for, I'm going to set up April for you while you guys share over in the chat box some of your takeaways. And if it's okay, we'll go maybe just a few minutes over. I'm sorry, I feel like I had so much material. And I would love it if you would share. Oh, Michelle, an update on the daybook. Yes. So, my designer thought she would have a new draft to me by today, but she was not able to do it, but she's hoping over the weekend. And we hope to have it available within 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, the idea is to have it available by spring. So stay tuned. It is going to be this size, which is 8 by 10. It's going to be available through Amazon. And I know some of you love the spiral. Unfortunately, Amazon does not do spiral, but what you can do is take this book. Some people have even done it with Year of Tranquility. You take the book to Kinko's or one of those print shops and they chop off the perfect binding and then they will spiral it for you. And it costs, you know, like $5 to $10 is what I understand. So just so you know, that is going to be happening. It's going to be similar to 6.0, but upgraded and enhanced using a lot of pieces from here, but new photos. And I've added some fun new pieces, and I will of course do a whole kind of write up on that whenever it's ready to let you guys know. But yeah, thanks for your enthusiasm. And honestly, I really kind of wasn't going to do another one, or I wasn't planning on it. And you guys during the Tranquility du Jour live in January, you really pushed me. You were like, I need it. And so I you know, at that point I was still working on this book, but I said to my designer, I'm like, we got to do it. We got to do a day book. So you planted the seed at TDJ Live. So just, you know, I do hear you and I do appreciate the feedback, and it will be coming. I mean, hopefully I would say 2 to 3 weeks. So stay tuned, Michelle. Thank you. And yes, so if you would share over in the chat box any takeaways from tonight while I do a little tutorial. And what I mean by that, you know, were you excited about reading, I don't know, Backlash or The Second Sex? Or are you excited about the giveaway? Or are you thinking like, huh, you're right, I'm going to be the same age in 1 year if I do start piano lessons or if I don't, so I might as well start them. Or are you inspired to maybe start doing some art journaling, kind of based on, you know, the tutorial that's in Year of Tranquility? Are you inspired to maybe work with a little washi tape, which again, I'll show you in a demo real quick. So just sharing with me any takeaways that you have from tonight's experience. And it could even be from the Marianne Williamson poem, right? This idea of like, I really want to show up in the world. I want to let my light shine. Ideally, that's going to encourage my daughters or my granddaughters or my nieces or my friends to do the same. All right, so takeaways over there, would love them if you have a moment. And then in the interim, what I will do is just show you real quick how I will set up for April. Okay, so April's going to be for me on page 88. So I pulled an image from a magazine, and then what I typically will do is place it down and then just kind of fold it over what the size of this page would be. Because then what I'll do is tear it or cut it. So you see it's like, because you know, magazine pages are pretty big, right? So I could go back and forth and then tear, or I could cut. I think tonight, just to be speedy, I will cut. All right, so then I'll get the white out, which is the, you know, the edges, because I want this to be full image. Okay, so here what I do is I take my trusty glue stick. Of course, you could use double stick tape. You could use washi tape. I don't know, I'm a fan of the glue stick, but then I do use washi tape, of course, over it for a little decorative nature. And then I just do a glue stick kind of around the edges. Voila. And then I add it into my book. Okay, so here you go. And then what I'll do, of course, too, is I'll go through and do the numbering. Let's see, I think the first starts, it's on a Monday. April 1st is on a Monday. So, you know, I'll go through and kind of get my month set up like this. And then say I was going to be away. I'm trying to think in April if I'm away. I think I'm just away April 1st. Actually, I come back the 31st and then I'm back on the 1st. So what I would do, I like to use washi tape for this. And I'll just kind of mark it out because I'll be traveling. I'm going to go see a girlfriend who I've been friends with since a long time, since junior high, and who lives in Colorado. So what I'll do is just write CO. So this just gives an idea. Of course, I would fill all of that in. I would write April and then my intention for the month. But I like to use the washi tape for like, not if I'm gone for just like a day, but you know, if I'm gone for a week, I would do a full week here. Just kind of what I did here for February, right, for Costa Rica. Okay, so of course I would fill that out. And then here what I'll do is I take my, so I love Sharpies. As you can see, I've got gold and black. And then what I do is I will look back on March's dreams, right? And then I'll check off the ones that I've done, and then any that are remaining and that still are relevant and important to me. And I'll probably do this probably on the plane ride back from Colorado or to Colorado. And then what I do is I just make these little boxes. Again, because I love me some tick boxes, but you could do circles or whatever. And then I'll just write out, like, what are my goals? What are my dreams? And I don't know right now because I don't know what I will have accomplished in March yet in order to put them over. But I just kind of wanted to show you my process. Okay, and then here's where washi tape comes in. Okay, this is amazing. It's gold washi. And I love me some washi tape. Now, I will often put it at the edge because then what's kind of fun is you can fold it over. And then what happens, you see I've done it on quite a few pages in my book. Do you see how it gets this really kind of fun, beautiful effect on the edges, especially when it's gold? So like for me, I can see it in the light. It's just really vibrant. But yeah, and so then that's what my page will look like. And then I'll fill it in. So that just gives a little idea on kind of how I set up my Year of Tranquility book every month. All right, so let me head on over and then just hear from you guys. And one thing too I wanted to mention, my very last page, I have got a few things that are coming up, and one that I'm super duper excited about that I want you guys to be sure to know about is Monday. Tickets are going on sale for the Sunday, June 9th TDJ soiree here in DC. Okay, I'm so excited about this event. So I was dreaming up this idea of a weekend experience in DC, right? Where people would fly in Friday night and then leave on Sunday. And then I ran into the woman who runs Elizabeth's Gone Raw here in DC, which is this gorgeous setting. I ran into her and I was like, I've been thinking about you. I want to do an event, and we would come one night. And then I started looking at her space and I was like, you know what? I just want to do a day-long event there because it's so stunning. And the food's amazing, so healthy, but so good, like really, really amazing. And anyway, so that's how I came up with the idea of TDJ Soiree. So if you have sent in your information to be on the guest list, and you can do that over at KimberlyWilson.com, there is a sign up right on the home page. You're going to be the first to know about the tickets, but they're going to go on sale Monday morning. And so look for that. And those of you who did sign up for the guest list, you're going to get an email about it. And I'm just so excited. I hope you guys can join. And even if you don't live in DC, come for the weekend, because on Saturday we have yoga and the animals, if you're interested at all in that. If not, no worries. But if you are, great, you would have something to do on Saturday. If not, I'm going to give you an idea of some things that you could do on your own, and then we start on Sunday. So super excited about that. Also, save the date for March 24th. That's our next TDJ Live, and that's our spring one, which is always fun and festive. It's 1 hour, similar to this, but we explore 8 topics and petals, really, because we do these little flowers, for having a bit more tranquility in the new season. And then the last thing, on March 15th, the early bird special ends for Tranquility in Tuscany. If you were interested at all in escaping to this gorgeous private villa on a hilltop in Tuscany and doing yoga, mindfulness, and creativity, would love to have you. There's 5 spots left. It's a dreamy experience. It includes a day-long trip to Cinque Terre, which, Google it, it's freaking amazing. And if you sign up with a friend, you get $100 off, and so does your friend. All right, so again, all the information for that is over on page 12 of your guidebook. All right, so let me head over and we will wrap up, because I want to hear what your takeaways are from tonight. All right. You've influenced me over the past several years, incorporate sweet and beautiful elements into everyday activities. Kristen, I'm so glad. It's so important, isn't it? I need to open up my copy of The Artist's Way. Yes. Inspired to get back to my manifesto. Did some coloring for the seasonal review. Realized how much I loved it. Since Costa Rica, I've been taking a couple hours a week to art journal. I love that. I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. How essential it is to schedule artist dates and nurture my creative gifts, drawing and painting. Yes, Michelle. Inspired to work on my manifesto, because you said you edit yours all the time. I was procrastinating because I felt like a manifesto was something big and important and I have to live with forever. Yes. You know what? It is tweakable constantly, because we're constantly changing and growing. Shizuka, emotional struggle coping skills. That helps a lot. I'm so glad, Shizuka, because you know what? We all struggle with that. We are all triggered, whether it's traffic, whether it's an email, whatever it is. So thank you. Cindy, so many takeaways. One of the biggest is a reminder you can do small things to create tranquility. Yes. Critical, right? We're not always on a yoga retreat. Takeaway, progress, not perfection. Yes, Melissa. Oh, I'm so glad. Cindy, love the Artist's Way reminder about being the same age whether or not you start something. Yes. Progress, not perfection. Deborah, read Gloria's book. Yes. Read a few of the recommended books. Karen, joining late, but so happy to have caught the show. Such a delight. Yes, thank you. And Karen, totally agree. Felt the same way about the manifesto. Now I want to write my own. And the tenets, yes, I want to write my own. Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in and, and for supporting this book. It means a lot to me. You will have access to a replay. You can re-listen to this. I will put up the book suggestions that I mentioned, the feminist texts that are kind of like the classics of sorts that you may find interesting. And I just want to encourage you, kind of as I say here in the love note on page 11, to, enjoy tonight, whatever time zone you might be in. Enjoy the weekend. Really celebrate. Continue celebrating you and all you do, the ways in which you show up. And there is nobody like you out on this planet, and you have a special gift to bring into the world, and I hope you will continue showing up and doing that. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for your support. And please don't forget to share your photos, hashtag Year of Tranquility. I can't wait to announce the winners of the giveaway. And I wish you a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend.